All right, this is how I prefer the cores to look when you bring them to me for a swap. As far as the components go and the things I want you to leave on there, this is ideally what I would like to get. I know there's going to be some exceptions, so we'll go around the transmission and talk about everything. So on the driver's side here, leave the DTR on. They can get pretty stuck on the shift shaft there, and you know, I'd rather you just not mess with it. Leave it on there. I'll take care of it. Your new unit will have one. That's not a problem. The plastic clip for the shift linkage here, those, if you can take it off, take it off. If not, you know, that's fine. You can leave it on there. We'll get that all sorted out when you send me pictures. Basically, an easy way to get it off is just with some sort of U-shaped pry bar like this. I don't even know what this will. This might be an upholstery tool. I don't know. But you just wiggle it behind there, behind the back of it, and then just kind of pry its way out, and it comes right off without breaking. So that's real easy to do. Again, if you're not comfortable, just leave it on there, and I'll make sure you get another one. The shift bracket, I prefer you to take it off. Again, this is another area that's subject to corrosion here in our region, Mid-Atlantic. If you see some corrosion around these bosses here, they're weak. So if you put an impact gun on there, you're going to just blow them to pieces, and then I'm going to have to repair that. So if you're uncomfortable taking this off, leave it on there. Otherwise, all it takes is a little heat. Put a little map torch or whatever you got, heat these bosses up, and just a 3/8 inch ratchet is all you need to get that off. Not a big deal. Again, if you're not comfortable, leave it on. Four-wheel drive linkage, if you've got a manual four-wheel drive truck, you got to take that off. I don't have that many of them anymore, and I don't want to lose any more. So make sure you take that off before you bring it to me. Speed sensors, leave them both on. The vent tube, yours is going to be dry rotted and crumbly. I don't care. It's trash anyway, but leave the clips on there. There's usually two, but leave one or two or whatever you got, or if no clips, not a big deal. If you have if you're using a temperature sensor, some sort of aftermarket temperature sensor, and you don't have the plug, that's fine. You're just not going to get a plug on your new one. So whatever you give me is exactly what you're going to get back. Now going to the back again, leave the speed sensor, leave the extension housing. I've had customers take these things off. Leave it on there. You're going to get one with your new unit. But take off the cross member mount. Your cross member mount, most of them look trapezoidal like this. Sometimes they're rectangular like that. These happen to be the same, they're just shaped differently, but there is a third one for vans. Some vans have a unique one. So keep your mount, that way you know it's going to go back in, that way you know it's going to work with your truck. 2 bolts, hold that on. They're 1/2 inch heads, so you got to use a 1/2 inch socket. Do not use a 13 millimeter. If you use a 13 millimeter, you're going to strip them because they're on there really tight, and then it's going to be a pain in the butt to get off. So it's a 1/2 inch socket, use a 1/2 inch impact gun, and those 2 bolts will come right out, and keep your cross member mount. On the passenger side, leave the bypass tube on and the banjo bolts. I rebuild those, so I need the cores back in order to give you a new one. So leave them on there. If you had trouble with your cooling lines, and you're probably going to replace your cooling lines if they did this, but sometimes they twist up and they break right here. Just leave them in there. I don't care. I'll get them out. But I want the bypass tube and the banjo bolts. The lower dipstick tube, I prefer you to leave it in there because I pull them out and I reseal them. Sometimes in this area, the 2 dipstick halves, or the 2 dipstick parts, rust together and they come out as one piece. I know that happens, but basically, if you give that to me, you're going to get it back. But don't try to pull that out if you don't have to. Leave it in there. I'll reseal it. You'll get a resealed one on your new unit. Finally, leave your input shaft. The input shaft can tell me, you know, a little bit of the story behind the failure in the transmission, so I prefer to get them from you. And that's basically it. Oh, these 2 O-rings here that I always put on. These 2 O-rings that I always stick back here, one's bigger than the other. These are for the dipstick tubes. The bigger one is for the lower part that goes on the the longer piece, and then the smaller one is for the yellow plastic part that you actually pull out to check the fluid. You may need them, you may don't, you may not. Not a big deal. I just don't need a drawer full of these kinds of things. So that's where they go, and that's what they're for.